Hey, ladies, and welcome to the Sustainable Summer Workshop. So, my name is Ritu, and this is the Girl Boss Method. So, firstly, before we move forward, I'm going to talk about some housekeeping as ideally, these kind of set the tone for as we come in. So, firstly, what I'd like you to do is utilize the Zoom chat just so that I know that you're awake and you're paying attention. So, just put a one in the Zoom chat for me. Fabulous. And then that way, when we come to questions later, we're able to kind of find out where that is. And yes, I do have a reminder here for Ritu to hit record. So I need to hit record, and I have done. And ideally, what I would say is if you are using your phone, that's absolutely fine. But if you're watching this from your desktop, make sure you just pop your phone away so you've got no interruptions. So I've got your attention for the next 55 minutes. And what I would always suggest, and this is what I tell my ladies as well on our training calls, is take notes as if the slides are not here. It's definitely much easier to take on board what's being said if you can make notes. And what I would suggest, and maybe why you should stick around to the end, is firstly, we're going to be covering three different key areas. So firstly, helping you drop body fat without missing out on holidays or meals out, balance your hormones and boost your energy with smarter structure, and also help you understand how to stay consistent by mastering the days that you can actually control. And obviously, if you stick around to the end, there is a special bonus for three ladies. Okay, so firstly, my name is Ritu. I am an online coach. I work with women's to help them with their health and their fitness. And I have, believe it or not, helped thousands of people over the course of my 20+ year career. So I've helped all kinds of people help them get there in their best physical shape. And I've had to do this more recently in terms of managing my business and also my own fitness at the same time. So would you believe this is a picture of me? This is going back maybe about 10 years ago, or maybe just more. But this was, yeah, about over 10 years ago. This is me in my late 20s, and I was training during this period. I was exercising, and that's me working in gymnastics. So I'm in my clothing, my coaching clothing there as well. And I was training, but I was training without any direction. I felt very tired all the time. I remember getting this heel pain. So my foot, the ball of my foot used to hurt, and I didn't really understand why. I had really low confidence, and I was ashamed to tell people that this was my career, looking and feeling the way that I did. And if I'm honest with you, I blamed a lot of it on my age. I thought, crikey, I'm getting to my late 20s. Is this what happens? Well, clearly not, because I'm out the other end now. I turned 41 this year, and I will tell you that I feel energized, I'm more educated, I'm proud, and I am confident. And if you go back to my 20s, or even think about you earlier or younger in your life, if anyone told you that you could be older and actually feel these things, you would think that potentially they were telling you lies. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of my clients. So this is Mela. We helped Mela achieve an incredible 13.1 kilo weight loss with the Girl Boss method. And we allowed her to gain the confidence to wear that bikini for her 30th birthday. And then we have Nicolette. Now, Nicolette is a beauty business owner. She specializes in doing sort of lash extensions and other various different facials and all sorts of different things within our business. So again, with her business, it can be quite sedentary, but we ultimately helped her lose fat and get toned. We helped create this snatched waist that she was after, and we also helped her get in the best, healthiest shape for her pregnancy. And then we have Preeti. So Preeti is an optician business owner. and we helped her achieve that lean toned physique on a vegan diet. So the funny thing about Preeti is that she actually had more food and was able to lose body fat. And as you can see those wonderful toned abs. And then we have Barbara. Barbara is also a business owner. She dropped an astonishing 35 kilos with the Girl Boss method. And again, we allowed her to feel more stronger, more confident, and live a healthier lifestyle. Now, you might be at this stage in your sort of fitness journey, in your life, where no matter what you've done as a woman, your weight is just not shifting and the hormones are changing things. Or it could be that you are actually losing weight, but you don't feel toned, nor do you feel strong, and nor do you feel energized. And worse still, it could be that you also feel the only, and you've had progress in the past, but the only way that you were able to make progress is to go all in, miss out on all the fun, and end up exhausted in the process. So, some of the methods that may have failed you in the past. Again, typically these are things that we might read in, now we have Instagram and TikTok telling you to do stuff, but it would have been our magazines that would have told us to cut carbs. Carbs would have been the thing to drop, right? Or to have very, very low calories, this sort of, 1200 calorie diets and less. Maybe even opting for fad diets, so things like keto or, the Cambridge diet, or, doing all these other different faddy things like Slimming World or Herbalife. Maybe you've also been told that HIIT is going to be the thing that's going to allow you to burn fat because it is a shortened amount of time, and you're obviously really focused within that short time. And it could be that you're actually just getting HIIT overload. It's not to say that HIIT's bad. HIIT can be good if done in the right ways, but again, it's just the overload. So we're thinking of these sort of, these group exercise businesses that have popped up all over, very popular, very faddy, but absolute overload focused. And then also maybe even misunderstanding the idea of calorie focused workouts. So, you're doing these workouts, but they're aimed at making you burn a certain amount of calories within the workouts. Now, what this is all doing is it's causing an absolute shit show when it comes to your hormonal balance. And when there are things happening with our hormones, it may be an indicator as to why you're not actually losing the weight. And some of the things that you've been doing, again, we've talked about extreme dieting, very low calories, training so hard with minimal fuel. And again, ultimately, what's going to happen is your body perceives this as stress and not fat loss. And unfortunately, this will trigger that sort of hormonal adaptations, and these are there to help protect you. If you felt like this, and maybe this is where some of the things that you've tried so far, just pop a 2 in the Zoom chat for me. So, moving on. So, cortisol, we've all heard of cortisol, this famous stress hormone. Again, this is kind of triggered, and it's not to say that cortisol is all bad. Cortisol is a very important hormone for us to actually have. It helps us obviously wake up in the mornings and sort of get that rise. But the issue happens when it's sort of rising beyond, again, it's causing these un how can I put it, sort of unhelpful or, unhappy situations are occurring. So you've got these chronically low calories. We're then driving on low sleep and poor sleep. There's this excessive hit, and these are all stressors. And then obviously we get this cortisol rise, and then ultimately, as an issue of having that really high cortisol, this may result in more water retention, more abdominal fat stored, again, around your midsection. That's what we kind of relate it to. And you may start to feel the sort of puffy, inflamed, or again, feeling like the scale won't budge, even when it feels like you're doing absolutely everything right. And so these are two other really key hormones, and these are actually our hunger regulation hormones. Maybe not as talked about as often, but they are vitally important. And again, you've got leptin and you've got ghrelin. And what's happening is the leptin is driving down when we're in this dysregulation, and the ghrelin is driving up. Okay, so leptin is your I'm full hormone, that's going to drop. Ghrelin, a bit like gremlin, I'm your hungry hormone, and this is going to start to increase. So it's like your brain is pushing you to eat more, and as a result, you're getting these increased cravings, this lack of satiety, and then you start falling into this like very much binge and restrict cycle. And then obviously we've got metabolism control, so to do with our sort of T3, our hormone, thyroid hormone. So again, prolonged undereating can down regulate your thyroid, your T3. This is going to slow your basal metabolic rate. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But this means that, again, you're burning fewer calories at rest. Your fat loss then stalls even when you have applied a deficit. So something is going on here. And then we've also got this sort of related very heavily to us women, the estrogen and the progesterone imbalance. Again, low energy availability is a thing, and this can disrupt the balance between these hormones, the estrogen and the progesterone. And then this can have a knock-on effect by affecting your menstrual cycle regularity, your mood, and your fat storage as well. And especially, again, for some women, their periods go bye-bye, they go missing, or it might be that they start to get heavier, or their PMS worsens, or maybe they have or they experience libido drops as well. So there's this big implant balance going on. So, because of all this stuff and the things that you've tried, you end up hitting plateaus. You struggle to keep up, even if you have been seeing progress. This is then going to lead to the energy crashes, the hormone disruptions, the binge restricts cycles. And then over time, this is going to affect your mood, your sleep, your performance, and your results. And ultimately, what we really need, ladies, is balance. So, again, that's what I'm here to bring you. So, we're going to talk about some evidence-based strategies. So, these are things that I've used myself within my own transformation and also for my clients too. So, breaking it down into different strategies here. Again, please make notes. And, as we sort of move forward, drop a 3 in the Zoom chat if you're still with me right now as we move on into this next phase. So strategy 1, we need to create this very realistic calorie deficit. And we also need to build in something called maintenance as well. Strategy 2, we're going to build balanced meals with the protein and the fiber at the core, prioritizing resistance training. This is the stuff that's going to make us feel happy and hormonally balanced as well. It's not aggressive. Incorporate progressive overload within workouts. So really understanding what this means and not sort of this haphazard shit show that might have been occurring so far on your fitness journey. And prioritizing recovery, sleep, and your stress management. This by far is one of the most important areas of your journey. So, strategy 1, we talked about a moderate calorie deficit. Now, why do we want to do this? Firstly, the goal is to obviously when we are thinking about weight loss, even, we are ideally looking to drop fat. Okay. You don't want to lose all this vital lean muscle tissue that you've built. So, our goal is to burn fat steadily without sacrificing our energy, our mood, nor our social life as well. So, how do we create this moderate calorie deficit? So, firstly, we want to apply a very small calorie deficit, not an extreme cut. And I will go into this in a moment. You want to drop down 15 to 20% in terms of calorie intake below your maintenance. We will go through this in a moment. Loosely track through MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal is as old as my eldest nephew, or I've been using it as long as my eldest nephew has been alive. He's 20 this year, I think. So a very, very long time. And then you want to apply something called calorie banking. Okay, so this is something that we use within the program as well. So it's all about sort of structuring how you might eat lighter the day before an event, for example, and maybe on the day of you'll apply that sort of protein heavy breakfast. And the idea here is not to be perfect every day, but to be consistent across the week. This is the thing that's going to help you. Remember that word balance, okay? And actually just write the words balance in the Zoom chat for me. Brilliant. Okay. So, maintenance strategy. Now, let's say, for example, your maintenance calories are roughly 2000 to 2100 calories. So, this is guidance, just very general as an example. And maybe your fat loss days you have as 1600 calories. So, I know we've got this idea of daily calorie intake, but I want you to kind of start thinking about things across the week and how you can apply this flexibility and this freedom across the week. So this is where we cue in things like maintenance days and fat loss days as well. And we can actually even stretch it further along than this to weekly, bi-weekly, and even monthly, believe it or not. And so when we are thinking about maintenance day approaches, you want to have some flexible approaches here. So you could kind of, again, you could track until the actual dinner if you're going out that day. You can pre-plan your day so you can have, again, the shake, the wrap, the freedom, which is the meal in the evening. Maybe if you're not tracking, you could start lighter. You could opt for protein-based meals in the afternoon and have a more flexible evening. So the idea here is that if you've got a meal out, is adjusting the day by lowering the fats maybe earlier on, boosting the protein and keeping it light without, and enjoying it without the guilt. The idea is typically when we are having flexible meals, if we are going out in the evening, a lot of the time the meals are built around things like fats and carbs. So this is where we want to try and increase the protein intake. We are hypothesizing how this meal might turn out in the evening. What's really good is a lot of the time these days is menus do have calorie and macro information, which can be really helpful. And you can find a lot of this stuff on MyFitnessPal. Okay. Now, we're going to kind of be going back and forth here. So please try and stay along with me. And again, as I've said, make any notes or think about some questions you might want to ask later. And also maybe even just pop some comments in the Zoom chat as well. So the thing is, obviously we want to find out our maintenance calories first, and then we want to apply this 15 to 20% moderate deficit. And then we're going to have this flexibility around these special social days, social evenings, or maybe even holidays. So firstly, I'm going to show you this. This is typically what happens when people go, I cannot lose weight. I'm eating 1200 calories a day. I'm doing the best that I can. And to be fair, they likely are, but then they're likely not tracking at the weekends. And let's say if we were to start doing a bit of a, an inventory or maybe even sort of working out specifics in terms of what you were having at the weekend, we might find that that 1200 calorie that you've really been kind of driving for during the week that you've done very well with suddenly shoots up and it takes you into a surplus. It takes you into a maintenance or even worse, a surplus. And when it's in that surplus, you've got it in your head that you are eating low calories. And yeah, I'm just having a few off days. Yeah, I'm just having a few glasses of wine, or yeah, I'm just having some extras. There was some social things at the weekend. There was, I was going out to, friends' dinner, and that it's the idea is to understand how this can throw things off. Then we've got this approach. And the idea, if you kind of switch back, we've gone from having very low calories to actually creating some balance and almost trying to stabilize things across the week a little better with, yes, some room and some flexibility, at the weekend and again, maybe even a couple of days during the week. The idea is that when you are working out, you want to ensure that you are fueling your workouts. So whether it's that's the day of your workout or it's the morning after. This is something that, again, I work out with my clients anyway, in terms of, if what their hunger's like, basically. Are they morning training or are they training in the evening? And how does that affect things in terms of their energy? So, this is just an idea in terms of being flexible. So when you do learn to track, and if we decide to work together, or you find some instructions on YouTube, etc., in terms of how to track, the idea is that this is going to help you reach your goals with balance, with flexibility, and at a more sustainable rate. So we're going to talk about how to calculate your calories and your macros. So we're going to use a very simplified formula. There are so many different ways to do this. You can use, a calculator online. You can find, calculators, or you can simply work it out yourself. Or for me, I do this for my clients. So firstly, we want to calculate our total daily energy expenditure. Now, before I move ahead, just chuck a 5 in the Zoom chat if you are still following along with me and I have not moved too fast. Excellent. Okay. So, firstly, you want to calculate these daily energy expenditure, a total daily energy expenditure, your TDEE. You may have heard of this before. Now, the way that we do this is we calculate our basal metabolic rate. I mentioned this earlier. And we're going to introduce you to something else, which is your physical activity level. Notice how I've not included exercise within this. This is just BMR and PAL. So basal metabolic rate and physical activity. This is a bit easier to kind of calculate as opposed to trying to look and aim at how many calories you're burning within a session, etc. It's just trying to understand how you habitually move. And this may include physical activity within these as well. And this is where you start to rate yourself in terms of how much you move. So firstly, grab your pen, grab your paper, and I'm going to introduce you to the MAC BMR method. This is very likely one of the easiest ways to calculate your BMR. There are so many different methods. You've got Mifflin, you've got, Harrison Benedict and all these other people that have done these different calculations, but this is by far the easiest one. So firstly, find out what your body weight is in kilos and times that by 22. So just put that number down on your piece of paper and you're going to go your body weight times it by 22. You're going to need a calculator for this. So use your phone. Work out that sum. Now that you know that, you are going to separately, so body weight in kilos times by 22. Put that number down. Put it down, leave it there. Now you're going to choose your physical activity level. So notice how we've got sort of 1.1 sedentary, 1.3 light activity, 1.5 moderate activity, and 1.7 very active. So I want you to choose, and I'm going to help you choose by making this a little more clearer for you. So here, this is how we choose the appropriate physical activity level. So firstly, let's say, believe it or not, yes, I am an online fitness and nutrition coach. My job requires me to be sedentary. I'm sat at my desk for long hours. So, because of that, let's say that that was the only thing I did. I got up in the morning, I showered, I got ready, and I got down to my desk. And let's say I worked, this might be you work 9 to 5, or you work, maybe longer hours, you're sat at your desk, you're very focused, you're in a leadership role, or business focus, whatever it is, you are sat at a desk. Little to no activity, desk job, you will rate yourself at 1.1. Now let's say, for example, there is a little bit more activity throughout the day because you go for a walk. You plug in a walk first thing in the morning, which is something that I have to do. I go for a morning walk, an afternoon walk, and an evening walk, just to try and get myself moving and away from my desk. And maybe there's, again, the physical activity to put in. So let's say we start you at sedentary, and maybe we start to move you down a little bit. Maybe we could kind of apply that 1.3, because maybe we're now considering the fact that you are training as well, and that there are some light activity there. So again, you can see how different jobs may give you some markers, and you can kind of push that up depending on how you are. Okay, so we'll go back to this. So you've chosen your physical activity level. You've got your kilos times, your BMR. You've done that. You're going to times that by your PAL. That will become your total daily energy expenditure. That is where you need to sit. Now, when we are applying this deficit, firstly, you need to know that that's what you need for maintenance and just to kind of survive and tick over. Again, we can apply more things in the mix. We can kind of leave it there and go, right, that's our maintenance. Now let's try and add in some steps to help with the energy expenditure. Let's say you go for 10K steps a day. That will obviously bring you back some energy as well. Let's say we just want to kind of go, do you know what, 1.3, and let's give you, a deficit of that sort of 15%, just so that you're nice and level. So what you'll need to do is go into your calculator, that amount, and times it by the 0.15. Okay, perfect. Sounds a little bit confusing. Again, if you've done the sums, great. If you need to kind of run it by me at the end, we can do that as well. But hopefully this makes sense to you. Okay. So just sort of coming back to now to strategy 2, believe it or not, 5 steps, but I promise you this is going to be quick and iron. Balanced macronutrients with a focus on our protein and fiber. Okay. The reason why we want protein and fiber at the forefront is a lot of the time people just drive protein. They go, oh my God, we need protein. That's all you need. Well, actually, you need fiber as well. Okay. They work hand in hand. So fiber is obviously going to help you stay fuller for longer. Protein also helps with that. Protein is going to help preserve or preservation of muscle. The fiber is going to help with your digestion. The both of them together are going to help allow you some, again, some structure around your meals, and also stop you falling into these snacking traps. Okay. Often when we are snacking, typically it's because our meals are not satisfying. It's not to say that snacks are not allowed. They can form part of your plan, but it's not the whole thing of not eating it all and just snacking all day. Okay. When we are talking about the specifics around protein and fiber. So firstly, I just want to run home. We are not cutting carbs, and we are not cutting fat. We need to have the right balance. And again, this protein and fiber are going to be there to help support you with your fat loss and keep you satisfied. That's the job. That's the role of it. So protein, I sit around the recommendations, and these are sort of low recommendations for muscle building, and this will be 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight. And then once you know what that is, so you will times your body weight in kilos, times it by 1.6 on your calculator. Whatever that answer is, that's the amount of protein that you should be aiming for. Now, let's say it's ridiculously high and it just seems completely unfeasible. This is where we try and apply some flexibility and some realisticness in here. And we will kind of try and sit it somewhere between the government recommendations for just normal living, which is zero point 0.8 and 1.6. We'll kind of fit it somewhere in the middle. So usually around sort of 1.2. Okay, so that might help if it seems wildly absurd, the number, depending on what your current body weight is. Then we are trying to divvy this up and we want to structure our meals. Again, you can use MyFitnessPal. I would strongly recommend you do this on using desktop version. And then you can structure out sort of 25 to 35 grams of protein per main meal. Okay. Then we want to include our fiber-rich foods. So we are thinking about things, again, you want to include, and these are carbs as well, right? Your veggies, your lentils, your chickpeas, your oats, your bean pasta, which is our secret ingredient, and fruit. If you've not been introduced to bean pasta, I don't know, you've been missing out. And yes, as I've said, your carbs are the things that are going to give you energy and also help satisfy the fiber. Now, fats are essential. Fats are essential to, hormonal health. They are so important. So we really want to try and aim for, of the total calories, again, when you've worked out your maintenance and your deficit, of your total calories, you want it to sit at around 20 to 30% of those total calories. And I really want you to be mindful about portions here. So I want you to be mindful in terms of, things like, your tablespoon of olive oil, your handful of seeds or nuts, because a lot of the time people are, you kind of just think, well, it's healthy, I've got to cook with something and that's healthy. It's really important that you are mindful in terms of this as well. So if you know the answer, I'd love you to put it into the Zoom chat. What do you think the calories are in a tablespoon of olive oil? Because quite often, tablespoon of olive oil, it's like, that's what I had. You're drizzling it, and we've no idea, right? Yeah, it's roughly 120 calories. Brill. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to prioritize resistance training. So what's the goal here? Why do we want resistance training? Well, this is the stuff that is going to sculpt your shape, get you stronger, and help us retain that beautiful muscle mass as we drop body fat. And this is the stuff that is vital for us, ladies. This is the stuff that's going to help us as we age in the decades to come too. Okay, so again, when we're thinking about the resistance training, we are not going wild and crazy. We've kind of parked all the other stuff that we talked about before. We want consistency. So thinking about resistance training 2 to 4 times a week is going to be fine. Okay. And the key here is to tone and strengthen your bodies. It's not hours of cardio. That's not the stuff that's going to help you. Okay. And in terms of splits, full body or lower body splits are going to be ideal. And we want to focus on compound movements. So the stuff that sort of is, multi-joint. So things like your squats, your hips, your hip thrusts, your rows, your presses. We're not thinking about singular movements or wasting time with just one muscle group. We need to try and think, especially if you're short on time, you want to focus on those. and use what you've got. If you've got access to a gym, brilliant. That's going to be great for building out this program. But again, if you've got dumbbells at home or resistance bands, know that you can still make this work. And the key thing is structure. So, how do we do this? So, I'm going to give you a bit of a sample in terms of some days that you could kind of apply or use in terms of training. Again, these are sort of, let's say we go for a day one and we focus on, glutes and hamstrings. Hip thrusts are great. So again, you've got RDLs in there, your leg curls, your abduction. So your Bulgarian split squats as well. And again, it's not to say that this is the only way. We can always change things out depending on, your level and your understanding of movement at the time when you join the program or when you're working alone. So just consider those things as well. Just to consider where you are. And again, when we're thinking about upper body, combine the push and pull focus. You've got, your back is such an important muscle, key area to train as well. And yes, you can do this stuff at home, but ideally you really want to be in the gym because this is where you're going to get the best results. So there are exercises for your back that you can kind of target at home, but not as maximally as you can, with gym equipment for sure. All right. Then we want to talk about incorporating. So this is our strategy 4 now. We want to incorporate progressive overload within our workouts. So this is the stuff that's going to allow our body to keep adapting so that we actually see visible results. Please do not confuse this with, muscle confusion or, fast burning or, trying to do as, 100 squats or doing the reps really fast. That's not the stuff. We're not trying to focus on burning here. We are trying to build and we are trying to tone and we are trying to strengthen. So it's really important that you're not going and making this some sort of crazy fast workout. Okay, we can do things like supersets and stuff to help maximize if you're short on time, but the key thing here is you need to be working. Right, so how do we do this? So gradually increase the difficulty of the workout. So let's say, we've got our key workout, we've built that out, we've got our, our reps, our sets, etc. So how do we increase the difficulty? So we can change rep ranges, we can, add a set, we can increase the weight, we can focus on tempo and technique. And the thing is, you're not doing this every other session, you're doing this over time. And this is where it comes now to tracking what you're actually lifting. So the aim here is to improve a little by, again, every 2 to 3 weeks. Again, as I've said, add a rep, go up in weight, slow the tempo down. All of that is going to count. The idea is that you're not, and this is especially for my ladies that are training at home, you're not just repeating the same weights forever. Challenge is going to be the key. If you want something to change, you need to consider this. The muscle needs to be, forced to work, right? You need to be getting stronger. And then finally, on to strategy 5. So we want to prioritize recovery, stress and sleep management, all that magic, okay? And the reason why we're going to do this is it's going to help regulate your hunger, support fat loss, because we want to support this, and reduce the cravings and burnout. Because you will not drop fat or build muscle if you are constantly exhausted, you're wired, or you're stressed out. So it's so important that you prioritize sleep. You want that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but you want to protect your wind down time. You want to increase your sleep opportunity. So it's not just the hours that you're knocked out, you're actually thinking about building a wind down routine around this. So it's, turning off screens, pulling that back an hour at first, filling that time and that space with doing last minute chores, tidying up the kitchen and cleaning the sink, believe it or not, or sitting down and reading or journaling or coloring. There's so many things that you can do to kind of create this wind down routine. And yeah, you want to walk daily. It's so important if you are desk job and again, this is sedentary based living. You want to ensure that you are getting your walks in. Okay. So I really can't stress it enough. Walking, early, as soon as you get out, shoes on, get out the door and get for that first daily walk. Tick that off. Focus on breath work. Breath work is so good to just trying to help that stress management as well. Again, some really cool things that you can find online, again, about box breathing and all sorts of things as well. And another one would be to reduce your caffeine, especially before noon. Um, yeah, because again, if you're tired and you're wired and you're stressed, have a look at what you're putting into your body. And another thing, actually, another tip with caffeine as well is actually delaying having caffeine. So even delaying in the morning, waiting for, 90 minutes, let's say, so 90 minutes to 2 hours before you get that first caffeine hit. And then take your rest days seriously because these are the things that are going to allow you to progress. That's where all the magic happens. The magic happens on those rest days. And, again, with decreasing the stress and prioritizing sleep as well. So, if you have been watching and paying attention the whole way through, what I want you to do is I want you to message me the word offer on Instagram now. So if you've been sent this link from a friend, you just need to type in Ritu Bra. That's my Instagram handle. Message me the word offer and we can have a chat about how we build that out for you. Now, what you can do from here is, in terms of the next steps, in terms of what you've learned today, is you could do absolutely nothing with the information. You could have sat here for, I guess it's been 45 minutes so far and listened. Or maybe better still, you actually took notes and therefore you can try this on your own. And I would love for you to try this on your own, just see how you go. Or you can book a call with me and we can see how I can help you maximize this by doing this in a short period of time in terms of, not sort of doing the guesswork, making this very structured and focused for you so that we have a specific roadmap built out for you. So you're not just deciding day in, day out what you're going to do this week, what you're going to do next week. There's a plan in place. So what I would love to do right now is open up the floor to questions. And if you are watching this training back, again, send me a message, WhatsApp or Instagram, and we can, have a chat about some of the questions you might have around this video and what you've learned so far. Again, if anything has felt sort of confusing or maybe you want to touch on some key areas, etc., or maybe you want to know how this applies to you specifically, then fine. But yes, like I said, the first 3 ladies that message me on Instagram with the word offer after watching this video, there will be an offer for you. So if you are ready to make some changes and you want to do this in a sustainable format, which protects your social life, your space, allows you to consider, your holidays, the social events, do this at a rate which is sustainable, which is not going to hamper your energy levels, then yeah, just shoot that message across to me. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching this training tonight and speak to you soon. Thanks.